All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's been a long few weeks. A lot has been happening from AFCON, from local football controversies and the rest. So, we've taken time to just discuss. We're supposed to have a guest today, but unfortunately they've had some other engagements, so we're not able to record with them today. Hopefully we'll have them in future. But anyway, guys, welcome Kevi, welcome Al, welcome Oliver. Thank you for being with us today. Senegal has won AFCON. There's been a lot of controversy regarding the tournament. Some people are saying the tournament was arranged in a way Kuti Morocco is supposed to win. What's your view on how Morocco hosted the tournament and then the final, the controversies that happened? What's your view on the Senegal win and then how Morocco generally hosted the tournament with the racism, the officiating, and the ball boys?
To me, I think I can just say there are winners and losers. And if we look at the way how Morocco hosted the tournament, to me, I can actually say they've actually shown they've got the capacity to even host the World Cup in terms of facilities, in terms of things that they have. They've actually showed us that they can actually do more, way more than what we expected. That's the first thing, because I think this one became more or less like a precursor to the World Cup hosting that they're actually going to do in 2030. And the facilities, they prove that they've got the facilities. How the people will actually handle it is something else that can actually be changed. But having the facility, to me, says a lot of things about Morocco. Then also, when the tournament started, I think the hospitality was just amazing. And getting a lot of people from somewhere, though there were complaints or areas of I cannot say complaints, but these are areas of improvement. But when it comes to the game itself, there are some gains that we can actually talk about. Winners and losers. I cannot talk about Sadio Mane because he was one of the winners. But when you look down, there's also Tanzania, the one that we can talk about. Gamondi, coach, who took a couple of weeks to AFCON and then still managed to lead the team into the second phase. And now they're even ranked 112, courtesy of what they did. Then when you look also at the Ahmad Diallo, you see, most players have really, I think, Kevin, here you come in here. Most players have to actually leave Manchester to get their career back on track. But if you look at Ahmad Diallo, the way how he has played, in fairness, this 23-year-old that played very, very well in his team. Then when you look also at Benin, you look at the way how they've actually managed to get, they had a worst start, but they played very well. But when it comes to losers, in fact, sorry, the last one before I even come to OJ, because I know you would love this. Zimbabwe was actually talking about Chakuchichi to say we've got a 16-year-old. Mozambique had a 15-year-old player.
Okay.
Who went to his name is Chicanyo Conde, I think. Chicanyo Conde. So he by representing Mozambique, he's the youngest player besides our Chaguchich to play in the AFCON. So that being the case, you find that these were actually the winners. But if you look at the losers now, you find that most Moroccan journalists were the losers when they failed to have audience with the coach, regardless of the situation that presented itself. In fact, one of the winners were actually the supporters of Morocco. They didn't even demonstrate and do anything. Then the other losers you can talk about Mohamed Salah, his failure to get the silverware. Then when you look also at this team that what do you call this team? That fired the Gambian government when they said we don't want to see Abomayang and everything. You don't need that in football.
Gabon.
Gabon, yeah. You don't need that in football. You don't need that. Algeria as well. They were actually, to me, they appeared losers because they celebrated when they were winning against DRC, but they were bad losers when they were being beaten by Nigeria. You see, then Victor Osimhen is also, to me, appeared to be a loser because he could not actually manage his temper and other things. Though they played well as a team, but he needs to do a lot. That's what I can actually say. But overall, I think this was a very good tournament. The final, of course, the other losers are actually the officiating at the final.
Yeah.
That one to me, they actually killed the whole momentum that Morocco had actually managed to build.
Yeah. So nyaya Algeria, Morocco. Is it a case here kuti these North Africans they are not used to losing. So every time Pawano loser they don't know how to behave. Is it an attitude problem? What's the problem with my North Africans? Because I remember a few years back again, they had issues with South Africa when they lost to Mamelodi Sundowns. They started causing trouble as well. I'm not sure if it's an Egyptian or Moroccan club.
I
That's
think
for you,
in a
Con.
superiority complex
Yeah.
to the same region. So they don't view themselves as Africans. And then when they lose to other African countries, they tend to throw tantrums the way they did in the example Mamelodi.
Yeah.
So they just need to accept kuti they are playing in Africa and we are all Africans. Let's get on with it.
Yeah.
But vaneka superior kavanozviona vanako on. But then you get humiliated at home by Senegal. See, football can humble you in that way.
Yeah.
And look at how many times they've been playing AFCON. In this case, Morocco, I'm on about. Vasingawine. And those guys are no inferior. They keep winning it. There's a reason why, you see. And if they are focusing on, we want to be Europeans, they can be Europeans all they want, but play in the league that you are assigned.
Yeah.
Don't discriminate in any way, shape, or form, because we don't discriminate against them.
Yeah.
We let our football do the talking.
So, I think Oliver mentioned something about Osimhen. I think sometimes I like his behavior in terms of he seems like someone who doesn't want to lose and he doesn't accept losing. Of course, it may affect team chemistry, but is that not fire that Osimhen has, the one that puts him above many other strikers?
Yeah, you see, you can take it both ways. You like that fire for your player to have that fire, like Marinica said, fire in the belly. And Osman has plenty of it, right? But you also have to respect your teammates. That's not acceptable. You see, you are not judge and jury in a football team. You see, you are always right.
Yeah.
Yes, we don't want attitude like that. Ndokutadza
Yeah.
ikoko. But when he's playing, you have to respect your opponents. You have to respect your teammates as well.
Yeah.
I think
Your review, Kev.
I think I'll start by talking about this issue. Osman. Yeah. Sometimes we want to talk about these people as if Paniga is superhuman Garibo in that person. No, it's not. It's just a normal football player who happens to be exceptional. So
Yeah.
humility, which it's a lie. Kudanzis or someone, that's what makes him be a better player. Disrespect
Okay.
doesn't make you a better player. The fire in the
Yeah.
belly and disrespect are two different things. Yeah. And I'll tell you why he was very disrespectful. It's easy. It's an easy answer on that. Right. When we are angry or we have this fire thing going on as a footballer, it's like I would say if I was on the pitch, if I was off the pitch, I would be laid back. But if I'm on the pitch, I'm becoming an animal. Yeah. You keep that to a point where even if you went overboard, even if you went over the top, it stays on the pitch. Yeah. From there on, the whistle is gone. Yeah, unlucky. You can actually laugh about it, because at that time, you lost your head because you really wanted to win. Yeah. When then someone then walks away and goes into the dressing room when everyone else is celebrating, when that someone doesn't even go for post conference, white chats and all, and he walks straight to the team coach because he's upset. That's about him as an individual. That's got nothing to do with football. That's got nothing to do with fire in the belly. That's him being disrespectful because the player that he was being disrespectful to has actually assisted him in so many ways, in the game.
Yeah.
So you can't then use, a fire in the belly as an excuse, for bad behavior because that was bad behavior. It's, clearly because, what happens as well is actually it was the person who he did it to was actually someone who is not vocal in that way. Yeah, because he does that to a hothead as well. What happens? The hothead responds. Then he gets wound up by, the hothead responding. It could have been an even bigger issue, or it could have, been bad. Yeah. But the fact that Lookman, I just took it in his stride and just left him like that. Doesn't matter that you're a superstar. Some players will tell you, you might be the best and I might be the lowest player in this team, but you're not going to talk to me like that. And they end up like, by having a scuffle and all that. Yeah. So it's not acceptable whatsoever, in any circumstances, what he did. Then generally with the whole tournament itself, I think from an organizational point of view, it looked like it was done in a very professional way. But then sometimes as well, you need to see behind the scenes what's happening. Are the teams being looked after well? Are they being given the places that they ought to be given, in terms of a country which is hosting, such a, huge tournament. I didn't hear much complaints about, about the dynamics on that. However, biggest problem, you have, especially when you're talking about the North Africans, is the fact, what this superior and inferior issues, because it always rears its ugly head whenever they're involved, in a tournament. And I don't think any of us here can sit here and say they didn't see that something was not right from the onset. It just seemed, you can call it coincidence, but whatever, but it just seemed like everything was set for Morocco in more ways than the other. Of course, they're a good side, they're a good side and probably one of the best, teams in Africa. So they can complement whatever is being done for them with the actual football itself, So it's not like you're trying to prop up a Tanzania or a Zimbabwe or something. Yeah? You're propping up a team which is already like one of the teams which got to a semi-final in the World Cup. But this is what I don't like about the African football, because sometimes, do you know when you can see something wrong, but you cannot go into court and say this is what was wrong because you are told you do not have evidence. You do not have evidence, but you can see, and everyone can see that there's a problem. So this is what was happening with them. And because the amount of times you look at the games, the amount of times that decisions always went their way, the big decisions every single time. And it says one thing about like what we shared today. How does a team which has the most fouls, win fair play? It shows you that they were fouling a lot and they were not being punished for it. They were not being cautioned for it. And hence, less yellow cards. But if you look at the fouls that they were actually committing, there's so many that we saw where you think they could have been cutted and they were not. The amount of penalties, I can remember probably 3 or 4 stonewall penalties that could have been given against them, and they were not given. And 4 goals over different games, that's a lot, because they could be winning 1-0, and if a team isn't given, a penalty, that could have been a 1-1. Maybe they would have been taken into penalties and all. So there's too much wrong, with it. And the highlight for me is the foul on Mbume against Cameroon. You tell me that is not a penalty, then I don't know what a penalty is. Yeah. So these were blatant things. And then you come to the final. And then you come to the semi-final with all these shenanigans that were happening. Then the final. The behavior of not only the players, but their bench and also their fans and also the ball boys and all that. You can, if people are doing that, and there's no repercussions, there's no, sort of being called out or punishment for that. What does it mean about our game? When a player, a sub goalkeeper, who is probably, if the Senegal goalkeeper got injured, Mandy, yeah, the player who was being abused by those players is the one who was supposed to come into that goal. How can things like that be allowed where he's being pulled, he's being all that, by ball boys just because they don't want the opposition keeper to have a towel to dry his gloves? And then you have someone like Hakimi someone who I've always respected, and I think he's a fantastic player. He does the same thing. I did not think that I could see Hakimi doing that, but he did that. So it shows you that it's a culture within the Moroccans, and it's a culture amongst the North Africans as well. What even made it worse is even the videos that you saw today, that that primitive mindset is still there, where their fans have been celebrating on the streets. I don't know where they're celebrating because they lost, and they've got bananas and showing that the monkeys won. What does it say about football? It just destroys everything about the whole AFCON, because I'm thinking that they are just playing football with us because they've got no choice, because they couldn't be admitted, into Europe. But if they don't look at us like people, then why should we even be playing football with them? Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, thank you for that. In terms of the organization, I think you said there were no complaints. I think there were complaints. If you remember, during the early stages, Hugo Bruce said something about the arrangement of the games. It seemed like certain teams were given base areas that are close to where they would be playing, and then some games were arranged in such a way that certain teams could be closer to their hotels and their training grounds and the venues. So it seems again there was something. I think there was a complaint. The Nigeria coach was complaining as well about that in terms of the hosting. And I actually saw some videos today. Those ball boys did not start in the final. They were also abusing the Nigeria keeper in the previous games. So it's not something that was a secret, and seems that nothing was done. So yeah, maybe because they are money bags, they can get away with anything. Because it seems like they didn't need much support from CAF for them to host. So maybe they do anything that they want.
Do you know one of the things I find, a bit disturbing for me as well is you are given a place into the tournament by virtue of being hosts. Yeah. So even if you are 3 countries who are hosting, you're given a berth in there. I always feel that should be the end of it. That should be the end of it. The problem now is that too many things are being done for the hosts, which in essence, there is no fair way. It's not a fair system for football because, like you just said, other teams were being moved from pillar to post. Morocco were based where they were throughout. Yeah, I can't remember. Did they end up playing another game outside that pitch? I can't remember that. I'm not sure. But I think every single game was played there. So they were within the vicinity of the ground. Some countries are traveling the length and breadth of the country. I feel that, once they've been given the right to host and say they play the first game in the main stadium that's going to be used for the final, there should be provision that they have to start being treated the same as everyone, because there's too much, advantages for host countries, and then with what was happening as well, if CAF does not deal with that, okay, let's just say what happened with Nigeria, where these kids were doing this, with the ball boys, yeah. Why would CAF not put a stop to that from that game? Did they not know?
Yeah.
Did they not know that Morocco were doing this? So what? Because they would be saying it should be a case of their thinking, wow, you know what? This is bringing the game into disrepute because Morocco can have towels, but the other country cannot have towels. Yeah. So that's unacceptable. So they go to the Moroccan officials, Morocco FA, and say, under no circumstances do we ever want to see that happening on the final. So that's where it shows you that some countries are a law unto themselves because nothing was addressed. And that's the reason why it happened. And now it even happened at a bigger scale on the final, because the final itself is a big game. It's the biggest game. And it happened on a bigger scale because there were too many kids and too many officials who were doing the very same thing there. If CAF cannot, even sanction Morocco for things like that, for seeing a goalkeeper, right? Listen to this, and I've said it. A goalkeeper who was part of the squad is being dragged on the pitch by 4-5 ball boys because of a towel. If you don't see a problem with that, then you're not going to see any problems in football.
Yeah, it was really crazy. So you think Senegal was right in doing what they did in the final?
I know people have different opinions and you respect both opinions, and I also respect the other position that people have because it's from a professional point of view.
Yeah.
From a moral point of view, Senegal shouldn't have done what they did because it's it's not what you want in football, what to happen. You want, teams to accept, the whatever decision the refs make, because that's football and all that. Yeah. That's the moral point of view. But unfortunately, in this part, I chucked the morals out of the way because morals can only work so much if there is room that things are going to change and things are going to be done the right way. This has been a disease. It's a cancer in our game where things like this happen because now we're talking about Morocco. We said from the onset, we saw that they were being favored. Yeah, that's what we saw. We might not be able to go in a court of law and actually back what we're saying, but we know it because we're not stupid. Yeah. And so for this to continue happening, someone somewhere needed to do the things that's supposedly not okay. Yeah. Because what it has done now is, even though Senegal are going to be punished for that, but what it has also done, it has exposed now openly the bias and the stuff that's always people have always been complaining about. And you hope now that they can be dealt with because it's an embarrassment to CAF now with what Senegal did because it's just got to a point where in Africa, can you imagine? Maybe I can say for as long as I've known African football, this issue has been there all the time. And not once has anything been done. The very same things happen. So you just think that, sometimes maybe you need one person or one country to behave differently, to behave in a manner which is deemed immoral, but in the best interest of but in the best interest, of the sport, not Trump. So, so you see, this is where I was saying, I think we were talking about it, earlier on, and you're looking at Senegal as someone who people continuously do the wrong thing and nothing is happening to them. And you get to a point where you're going to say, I'm going to do the exact same thing, or I'm going to do worse things than you're doing. And I want to see how the authorities are going to react. Yeah. So in a world that we live in, yes, if it's police or whatever, you get arrested still, and you'll be in trouble. But the bottom line is, when you're talking from a football point of view, Senegal did that, and that is going to help African football. I'm sure that it's going to help African football because no one wanted to tackle this issue, and it has been tackled.
Yeah. But I also think, Kevin, football has always been a game of controversy, and it was not going to be nice for us to just have it all smiles all the time. But I think the controversy, unfortunately, came at the time when it was actually at the peak of the game and when everybody else had actually looked at the game and appreciated what has been happening. Because if you look at the way how Morocco was favored, like what you indicated, it didn't actually cost much to some because of what was actually happening. But in the final now, after Senegal had actually scored a goal and disallowed, and then you go on the same with of course the penalty decision is something that we can then debate on. But I think the emotional intelligence led Naref Kuti, this is the peak of the game. Even Kutombo delay Akwacho and everything. I also feel Kuti Morocco did not celebrate was not even prepared for a Senegal win. Even the way how they actually put up things to celebrate the win in Senegal, you could actually see no, yes, it's just being done. But it was going to be different if it was them who had actually won the game.
Yeah.
Then I also feel that Eto'o is one of the losers as the FA president with the way how he carried himself after the loss. Game Rabo. I think that's another thing. If Eto'o was actually fined 4 games, banned for 4 games, then at least something should actually... I think we wait to hear from what CAF is going to say based on the final that came out. But that being the case, I also think and feel good. Another winner from Zimbabwe is Mashanise. Played 1 game, became the most promising player in Africa. And that I think Zimbabwe should stand up and say, we did well, even though we lost and our ranking is the worst. But when our own did well, we should celebrate with him.
Yeah. So another interesting thing about AFCON, I think all COSAFA teams were knocked out in the first round of the knockout stages. So I think there have also been questions: is the COSAFA model working, or it needs to be changed? What can be done to improve football in the COSAFA region? Because it's always the West Africans, it's always the North Africans, but Sub-Saharan Africa, there's nothing which is really developing. What should we do to improve football in COSAFA? Should we change that tournament? Yeah, go ahead.
You see, what happened is, which was South Africa. I think that was first time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it was 95 or something like that, or 96. It was when we hosted Southern Africa that tournament. So,
Yeah.
nyaya yefavoritism iyaya yanga yatambotaura neeu treatment, tunhu twekungosapoti chatonzi munopiwa hotera iri 10,000 miles away from kwamuri kuda kuenda, kana kunzi iri in another city. Yona zvinhu zvakadaro, just to inconvenience you kuti pamunotamba bhora mune musiri 100%. You see, ndo zvimwe zvinhu zvatinosafa nazvo. And it took a long time until a second COSAFA nation won the AFCON. And this time, I think it was, yes, I'm not saying that South Africa did not win it by merit, because they played the most brilliant football that I saw in that tournament. They were the best team by far, heads and shoulders above everyone else. But when we also saw a very well coached Zambian team win it. You see, that team, it surpassed my expectations. I think it was just an outlier, that one. You see, but how often it happens?
They're always hosting.
AFCON. It's not a lot of times. The chances they would play in Africa, a Southern African team won, but the coincidence is just too much. Could teams host end up winning? And it's on allegations about Morocco and what they were doing. You see, an unfair advantage and an unfair disadvantage to other teams. You see, maybe game venue, you can play your 3 games in 3 different cities, which means you have to travel every time you have to play a game to a different city, to a new different hotel. So you are never going to be comfortable. You are never going to settle. So they will contribute to a team ending up losing penalty, and they lose on penalties, or they lose in extra time, because they had that unfair, just a little bit of a disadvantage on their part.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe.
But guys, no. But Al. If you look at Morocco, you cannot just say Morocco is just a team, because remember, with the last World Cup, they played very, very well. They played very well to the extent that they even got to the semi-finals of the World Cup?
Yeah, they got
to the quarter. Saka, you cannot just push over and say good, they were being favored. That's number one. Number two, if you remember when we had Marshall Gore here, he even mentioned, guys, this team is actually deadly. Because if you notice the age group, that team, you can actually see that they've got fire, they've got energy and everything. Fortune favors the winners. I'm not saying what you are saying is wrong, but let us not disqualify the fact that Morocco played very good game. It's very unfortunate that Morocco and other teams got no role in Nigeria and Senegal.
Can I catch him on that?
Okay, go.
I know with what Al was saying, yeah. I think that's where I was saying it's easier because already gonna bora kudara. I did it. Saka, those little incentives gets them into a position even favorable. So let's use an example like what Al has just said. Yeah. Morocco hotel yabo iri 5 minutes away from the ground. Yeah. They've got a game on Monday. They finished the game, let's just say rapera na 7 p.m. I did it. Garam dressing room and whatnot, 8 o'clock, Vam hotel. I did it. 1 hours away. Yeah. When they finish the game, they have to get ready. By the time that they get to the hotel, it is nearby to that ground. By that time,
Yeah.
Morocco is relaxed. These players were fatigue. They've been traveling. Some people are not good with traveling on the coach with travel sickness and all that. Some people struggle with that. So, and some people on a 12 kind of one, it takes them time to actually be able to sleep. But guess what? Morocco, by 8 o'clock, Daravarichi were in dressing room. So when you've already been given an advantage. You've already been given an advantage over the other side.
But Kev, remember these guys were finished on top of their group. So obviously, in all tournaments, if you finish on top of your group, you don't need to move stadiums. Those that actually finished third or second, but now finish on top of their group are the ones. Those who have finished on top of their groups, they maintain their
It depends. It depends with the level they pick up because it's about the pitches with which pitches they're using, and it's not necessarily that.
But for this tournament, we've actually noticed that. So Morocco did not even have need to travel because Waka win all their games and they were on top. And the next team that was coming, they had to travel to come and play.
Morocco did not need to travel because they were hosts and they were using one ground, which was near where they were living.
They decided that.
Yeah.
Yes. They gave themselves an unfair advantage.
Another thing, though, is that if you look at the makeup of the teams from COSAFA, we can notice that most COSAFA teams, they don't have players who are playing in Europe as compared to the North African teams and the West African teams. So, like South Africa, I think their main European player was just Foster. They had someone else in Europe. I think it's Mayambela and Stole. Then the others were based in Saudi. So again, I think it could be a contributory factor that the Southern African teams are not exporting enough players to proper leagues, which then affects us when we meet these guys like the Senegals. All their players, they will be from EPL, from the Italian league, from the French league. Same with Morocco. Most of their players are born in Spain. They are born in Netherlands. They are born in Italy, Belgium, and so. And we are competing with us. Our players in Southern Africa was playing for Scotland, for Adrock, for Durban City, for Marumo Gallants, and the rest. The Zambians, they are playing for Power Dynamos. The Tanzanians, they are playing for Yanga, Simba SC. So you're meeting the likes of Mbumo, the likes of Hakimi, or coming from proper teams. Is that not something also that contributes to Southern Africa continuing to be down there?
Yeah, I think that's a point. You're going to they have players playing in better leagues. I think we cannot ignore that. But ndikadzokera kune point yangu yandataura ye-unfair advantage here. It's gonna focus on one particular tournament. But this has been happening in the past. As many tournaments as far back as you can go and remember. Nyika dzekumusoro uko ka dzine ka-advantage kadzinopanana ona, and there's a reason why varivo vanoramba vachihosta matournaments iyaya. So takambofunga kuti zvichachinjawo pane president but anyway,
is the problem not kuti Southern Africa? I think the only country that has proper stadiums is South Africa. The rest of Southern Africa, probably Zambia has got one or two proper stadiums. Botswana, I think they have one or two stadiums.
Angola haina ere stadium. Angola ine
Angola
Namibia
could have,
Namibia iri kuvaka, and I think DRC iri kuvaka. Don't count.
Yeah, but DRC, it's not that stable. Angola, they're not the ones who were hosting when we had that incident with the Togo team.
Yeah.
I don't remember this.
So, can I come in, Al? You were talking about something else. Let me just give you the statistics here. I'm now becoming like the Rafana of statistics.
Go on, Mal.
So, in the absence of Malcolm, I become that Malcolm. So, if you look at I was just looking at Kutuchi, nearly 30% of the players in the Africa Cup of Nations this year, in fact, 30% of the total players that represented countries in the Africa Cup of Nations now were born outside Africa. What does that tell you? it tells you that the vision for us as Zimbabweans to go is not local, is to go outside. Cemented by the fact that South Africa only had one player who was outside, but still they lost. Zimbabwe had lots of players who were coming from outside, but they lost because of other things. People don't want me to talk about the coaching and other things.
No, go ahead.
But
because makanika haana kutambisa
They were
maswanisi.
not called.
they were not selected. Good way. They were not selected. Because when I start talking about that, someone gave, I know I asked you, but you find good Vacho Vargu from outside, they contributed significantly towards the changing of the game. Welcome, Ray. So I'm saying of that 30% Wakatambira from Gegen, you find that Morocco has got a significant number of players that were actually born outside Morocco, outside the continent. And how did they contribute that? They contributed in terms of tactical awareness, they emotionally and other things. Those that didn't have, they suffered most. And here comes our Zimbabwe. We have good players. We don't play them scientifically. When we play them scientifically, they score 2 goals in one game. Apana munhu akambo 2 goals in 90 minutes. Ari one player. Team yobva 3-2. So, and then a coach then comes and starts telling us otherwise. So I think the way to go now is let's identify talent that is outside. And then we see how we grow that talent. Because the African Cup of Nations has told us that 30% is coming to that. And Zimbabwe has got so many talents. If you look at the under 23 Akada, it's Goigo Zinesh. They didn't even look beyond the scope now. And yet we've got so many young players. If I tell
No,
you here in Sheffield,
that under 23 list was it not someone who are independent and go compile or a list and not necessarily?
I guess it has to be like that because if it was authentic, it will be pathetic.
Welcome, Ray.
Thanks, guys. Murgundinzo.
True Kunzo.
Yeah,
We're just
Moshe
talking
Rais.
about Kuti COSAFA teams. They all suffered during the AFCON tournament. We had also discussed earlier about the AFCON final, Senegal, and general organization of Morocco. So now we're on the COSAFA teams. Kuti Tese, we suffered at the round of 16, round of 32, I think, and we all went out. So what's wrong with COSAFA?
COSAFA teams, as in teams from Southern Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see, my take is this. Take is funera. Tichibata network vamwasina. In the sense yekuti, we think we are who we are not. Understand my point? For instance, I'll take COSAFA one by one. But let's not even get there.
Say it in English. We want to take one.
Okay. Botswana is not a footballing nation. We can try and discuss and, try and go up and down. Swaziland, Lesotho, they're okay.
We are not also football.
I'm getting there. Swaziland, Lesotho, these are our levels. South Africa, South Africa is like, if you go to school, you are grade 7, and then you go to Form 1, you put in a class with below average students, you are the only average student. You always shine. And people will think you are very smart. You know what I mean? They'll think you're very smart until the day you're putting the people that are on the same intellectual level as you. That's when people realize, this is why we're thinking this guy is smart, but he's not. That's South Africa. Why? Because we've got a lot of fans and journalists alike have a lot of say and have a lot of decisions. Who plays, who doesn't. Look at how they made noise about Loch being called back. Yeah? The coach said Loch is not coming back. And he stood on business. Why? Loch is known to be disruptive, like behavior-wise, discipline-wise. If you bring such a guy, you're putting the whole team at risk because he's going to have followers. Okay? And then you have our situation where you've got these youngsters, the young Sonas and Amnets and all that. Everyone's saying, if he was there, would have done this. How do you know who would have done that? They've played before. Remember, they've played before. And they were in these teams before. And nothing special came out of that. So why would he change overnight? Because we are now at AFCON. The only biggest problem is this. We think our locally based players are superstars. So much Zambia, that they can withstand anyone. But look at the teams that are playing right now. Look at Senegal. How many foreign best players did they have in that team? How many?
Everyone.
The 20-year-old who replaced Koulibaly, that boy was prepped way before. He was prepped way before he was told, one day you're going to be the center back. And the chance came by accident. And you can tell that he's used to playing in that in that kind of environment, that pressure. We don't even know who's going to replace Munetsi. We don't even know who's going to replace I don't know who else needs to be replaced. All the old guards. We don't even know who's going to replace them, because we have journalists and fans alike who have their own favorite players that, oh, he should play because he plays for Maviravira. He should just come and play. He should be playing because he plays for my favorite Jimbare. Okay, look at that list, the other 23 that Gono was talking about, that guy, that the possible 23 that guy put up. Did you realize something? None of those boys is locally based, except that boy that they keep forcing into things. None of them is locally based. Okay? It means this guy is looking, whoever put that list is looking beyond the 23 squad. He's looking beyond. He's looking at the best possible players we can have and we can call. And those boys are part of who we can call. Even if they are 40, let's call all of them and then start trimming them one by one. And then when you trim them, when you have, say, competition, say you have under 23, call the best. If you have under 20, call them. Let them get used to, to playing. Let them get used to each other. And let them get used to the competition of knowing, I can do this. If you look at Ivory Coast, they had all their, their old guards, the cases and all. And what happened? They just crumbled. The Wilfred Zaha. You can't tell me Ivory Coast doesn't have youngsters that could have done a better job. I believe they do. So COSAFA, we need to start thinking outside the box. The sun does not shine on our backside. We need to start thinking outside the box. Okay? We need to start looking at ballers from ability. Okay, from ability, not location, from ability, not which team they belong to. Because we like I always say, I love this saying, the dumb are most intrigued by the drum. The drum sounds, people start hopping around. No one is listening to the lyrics. Maybe the lyrics are denigrating you. You're not listening to what is being said. And then you start jumping around. And someone just be standing there like, look at these dumb people. This is what we do. We're intrigued by the drum. You just think, Maviravira, they're doing there. So they should, these guys should be doing that. No. The ball game changes when we go to international standards. The game changes when we go to international standards.
Do you know the biggest problem we have? I think we have never addressed it, and I've just thought about it in our address. I'm going to use numbers, but these are fictitious numbers, but I'm just giving you a guideline on what I'm talking about.
Are you from the US?
If I was from US, then I'll be giving you proper numbers and percentages.
We want stats.
I'm just trying to
If
use
you don't
the
have
numbers.
stats, we're not listening.
Yeah.
We want stats.
Yeah. So let's just say, like Zimbabwe, I don't know whether our population is still 13 million, let's just put it on 13 million. Yeah?
15.
It's 15, okay.
Put it at 15.
So Zimbabwe is on 15 million. Roughly, let's just say 1 million people are outside Zimbabwe, yeah? And 14 million live in Zimbabwe. The 1 million that live outside Zimbabwe are exposed. I don't know, can you hear me? Can you hear me? It was reconnected.
Yeah.
Okay. So the 1 million that are outside Zimbabwe are exposed to European football, are exposed to football, let's just say outside Zimbabwe, not just Europe, Australia, America, everywhere, Asia. Yeah, they're exposed to football. And then out of the 14 million, you probably have, let's just say 2, 3, or even 4 million who are exposed to English football, not European, not Australian or whatever. People who watch Zimbabwean, who watch English Premier League, sometimes a bit of Spanish football and all that. So how many people have we talked about there? We're being very generous in numbers. We're talking 4 to 5 million. That's 1 million who live outside Zimbabwe, and 3 million who live in Zimbabwe. That leaves the rest of the people who do not, subscribe to that level of football, that type of football. How are you going to convince these people that the only way for us now, kids who are born in foreign lands or kids who went to foreign lands when they were young and they are being taught football the right way, they are the ones who are going to play for us. How do you convince the majority that local football players are not good enough or generally not good enough to play for Zimbabwe? How are you going to do that? Because what I've seen, and we've all seen it in the groups and everywhere where we are, the amount of stuff that people say regarding local players and how they worship these players and how they think, you know what, they're the best thing that could ever happen to Zimbabwean football. How do you then convince them that Mali is, is so professional and is so good, he's been taught things, he will be our number one goalkeeper? Because they will be telling you about other 18 keepers who are in the Premier League and say they play first team football and they are better than. How do you convince? That's my question.
It is tricky indeed to convince us. I was also just thinking, COSAFA Macho, I think the honorary president of COSAFA, if you can guess, guys, do you know who it is? It's Philip Chiangwa. So that alone will tell you
Actually,
Panagua
didn't his term expire or something?
It expired, but he's been given a life role as a honorary president or something.
To me, if you had to ask me, I don't want to sound controversial. To me, Yangwa appeared to have Mnyatwe Bora compared to other people that are actually at the helm of our soccer now. Why do I say that? Because he's a man of action. And what Chiangwa does not go a bit about the bush and trying to be professional when he is not. He tells you straight up, he's no die. Simply because he's a businessman and he's business minded. So I think and personally think that KV has actually asked a very good question to say, how do you convince people to say that 1 million is better than the 15 that you have? This is reflective of what actually happened at our Africa Cup of Nations, whereby we have Mfana Rutambak Scotland being put on the bench at the expense of somebody who they see every day and then assume good are not gonna better, only to be proved otherwise. So that syndrome will continue to be there until and unless we have a strategy that is so inclusive and not exclusive to the extent of appreciating or accommodating that these are resources that we have at our disposal and we need to use them. That's number one. Number two, those who are also responsible, the COSAFA, if this is a plea, is let them look for people who can actually help them to also make decisions. In as much as they've got local people that can actually scout, but you go Bora every time. With people who go, I go to watch a Fusire every week. I stumble Bora or I Bora or I should train or something else because it's so close to me. I go to see Kubanzli my under 17s, vachitamba bora. I've got knowledge. There are so many people who need knowledge and about some of these people who are actually playing outside. But the unfortunate thing is, when you try to do everything everywhere, you do nothing. We've got people who are in Australia who can even give you intel about what is actually happening, and other coaches who can even give you so atamba so, and these are the states that we have. But the mere fact that we don't realize that we are sitting on a somebody akataura last time we are sitting on gold, but we don't realize that we've got so many resources, but we are not even utilizing them at the expense of Kuta.
I completely understand you because Isu says Zimbabwe, I don't think we're at the stage here. Kuti, a player like what you're saying, Sean Fusire, is a player who's playing week in, week out with championship with Sheffield Wednesday. Every week he's playing. And then he comes to Zimbabwe, Onzi, Sean Fusire, anoshairwa role. A young man who's grown up at Chitamba deep midfield, he's grown up at Atamba attacking midfield, he's grown up at Atamba right wing back. He's played every position. Zimbabwe, Mpana Rutamba league, he rated in the top 20 leagues in the world. Oil Zimbabwe, and Sean Fusire, Zimbabwe team.
Do you know?
It's absurd.
Do you know, OJ? The biggest problem, like Kev mentioned it, exposure is very important. Let me talk about exposure. Exposure, kuvhura pfungwa in ways and manners you never thought existed. If you if you go to group B school, primary, halfway, wait to group A school, the changes that you to use but it will be to at a certain time and period. It's a standard, it's a norm. Isusu, those guys right hands, Mali, hafa nukubata because pinda mu first year Brentford and all with the 15 million exposed to the 14 million they're exposed to EPL. They don't take time to watch a championship. They don't take time to watch even Panonzi and Champions League is on right now. Tottenham Hotspur's under 21 is playing Dortmund under 21. They don't even take time to watch. So you would not know how good Shami Meuka is. You would not know because how money. Also on newspaper. That's when their attention is that's when their focus is Coach Papo. So exposure is very important. When you come from a level, Yebora iri low, and you go to a standard iri high, things change. But what do I need to do? This is a question. Everywhere in life you go, this is when you realize what do I need to do for me to get to where I'm supposed to go? And did you see, for example, this thing is not just Kubora. It's everywhere in life. You know, Guti, if you apply for Australia on a skilled visa as an electrician, but guess what happens when you get here? But you can't work as an electrician because Australian standards.
Standardization.
But Mageti, you understand what I'm saying? So you go through another course, and then over offshore trade skills. Pamunos wait offshore trade skills maka wanda man. Pamunos is vanonga chindijairira ka. Wakanyatsoganira kuti avana vari kupiringisha vanga chinzi vakaipenga vacho. Vari kupiringisha kwavataisa kuti kondepi, and then assess uzokubvunza kuti saka you are well versed that wangu chibumira. So exposure is very important. When we learn to realize kuti from an early age and how they're taught how to think, how to run, how to turn, how to manipulate. Bora is just manipulating space. If you watch Sergio Busquets, he's manipulating the space, auntie. With all those things you are taught from an early age. And the argument I had with people is, if these players had decided to play for their home countries, the World Cup would have been won in Africa. And I said never, France. They were not going to. Because most likely they were not even going to play soccer. The development they got in France is different from what they would have gotten in Zimbabwe. That's why we cannot get a lot of players. Look at Isaac Mimosas, Kubapa Yakafa. When Isaac Mimosas disagreed that club there, what has happened to Borare Ghana? It has gone, but it has gone down. Their level has gone down. Let's be frank. Standard Ghana has gone down. Ever since Isaac Mimosas, South Africa is still there in the Transnet School of Excellence. There is Transnet to School of Excellence. Kokabara, Stephen Pena, Nana, all those guys. It's gone. And it's
unfortunate.
Exactly. And now at least he requests Stars of Africa, but Vachira Fan. They've only got up to under 17s, but these boys are being groomed well. So Isusuka, we need exposure. Our people need exposure to footballing things. You can go to Carabao Cup. You can Sheffield Wednesday Tamba versus Leeds. Watch that game. Watch what Sean is doing. Watch him and then judge him on those things. Don't judge because he's British. And then there's also in inferior complex. You know, they think utamba kuchandoka unogona ngoenda unotamba mu championship. Vanford, you just walk in vakomana ka. It's hard to go and play in championship. It's hard to play in League One. It's hard. But they just think with you just walk in. So that exposure is lacking. We need to be exposed.
Do you know one of the biggest?
COSAFA, sorry, Spurs, Goesa.
Chicha, I take Spurs.
Do you know one of the biggest issues?
So what I'm saying is exposure and watching these boys. Standard yedu. We are not even at par with South Africa. We're not even at par.
Yeah.
They are steps ahead.
Yeah.
You can tell the difference. Standard, twenda nechichi kubora, chipush on adrenaline. Mavira ya wina 5-0. But what I gara pasi funga uti. But mabora ya goa. I'm from build up. I've seen my goals.
To Bulawa
that you can tell what you go bora. A pass, when a pass is given to a player, intention here pass was to get the guy. But as watch arite. There's one guy in Angudor Wadziwakuti, maybe age is not on his side. But I tell you, technique go bora mnanonzi time nani machope. Oh, Amanaka, that is a gunslinger. Aidangona keeper chaita sei. Keeper oya mino zvami movement yakangoita ndobva rangorwa chigunwe so rikasopfuura nepari so ndikati that is a gunslinger because akaziva kuti ndatobuda in the clear. I don't have to worry about zvirugu. I have to worry about the guy coming. Machope, if he was younger, a few light years younger, that guy is a gunslinger, and I don't know, I don't know Takabva Kupi. If it's his years playing, under Mali guy. Yeah, good. We don't look at guys in Division 1, Division 2, you know what I mean? But COSAFA needs exposure, right? And let me touch on Senegal before I forget. The strength and power of the oppressor comes from the fear of the oppressed. Let me repeat. The power and strength of the oppressor comes from the fear of the oppressed. Kuti, the oppressor, if things are going his way, you'll never change anything because the system benefits him. If you watch Morocco versus Mali, there's a guy Agatsikwa Mubox. The ref did not do anything. He actually gave the guy Agatsikwa a yellow card. So these things have been happening. So you can tell it was a script written kuti the host nation must win.
Yeah.
I want you to go with me. It was scripted kuti vano winner. And then when he got that goal, Senegal, Ismail Sarr asked the ref to go and look at VAR. Tell VAR you want the look. What he did, he gave him a yellow card, and that boy almost lost it. His teammates held him back. And then that incident happened with Diaz. Guess what happens? That boy was screaming in that ref's ear, left, right, and center. Did you even see a yellow card? He was pointing to end up VAR, and he ran to VAR. You see, when a movie is written, there's a script, so could you follow the lines? If someone goes off script, watokanda sugar mchigayo chinomira. Coach when Senegal sugar mchigayo, he poured sugar in the grinding mill and it stopped. He told the script. So now those guys were now standing there, oh my God, this guy is just on the script now. His players followed him because he's the coach. If they followed him, that's discipline. It doesn't mean those boys are not, they are disciplined. He's the coach. He's telling them, come here. I want you to come here. They went out. Right. And then some people started jumping in. You see, people want to keep a good boy image. You see, there's a problem being a good boy image. Being a good boy image, in a subtle way, you are being someone's lackey. A lackey is someone who's just easily used. You are becoming a lackey because you don't have a good boy image. You understand? You need to stand up. You need to stand up for yourself, Kuti. This is wrong. This is rubbish. So when those guys went off, so those guys knew now. The VAR and everyone else realized this year went from 100 to 0 in 2 seconds. And this year can even get worse if these guys don't come back. People might say Senegal were being unruly and all that, but someone's going to start asking like, but why did they go off? And then they're going to start scrutinizing the game, every decision made by that ref. And guess what? They're going to find that ref. He was going to be caught wanting. And now clips are coming out of that Fontina, whatever his name is, a FIFA president, about to celebrate a Moroccan goal. You understand? Are you with me? Check the clips, check social media, it's there. Him and the other guy, going, when Morocco was about to score. At times, you need, if they think and assume you're a savage, at times you need to act like a savage so they know who you are.
You need a Trump.
You need a Trump, you need that crazy psycho Trump mentality. Okay, you want to do this and I'm going that way. Why? Because if Senegal had wanted the good boy image, I'm telling you, it was going to go on and the goal was going to be given as well in that long run, which was going to make sure the host nation wins. Tough has to be fair. You need to be fair. Let a game fair. Let the best man win. Okay, let the best man win. You cannot come with a scripted, it's not a movie. If we wanted to watch scripted things, we watch movies. They're scripted. That's why I watch movies. They're scripted. We know the outcome even when we're watching the movie. We're just watching it because maybe it's Denzel Washington Day, because I like Denzel, but not because the movie. I know it's scripted. I know the end is going to win. Even the Kung Fu movies. I love the Chinese. Kung Fu movies. He's hit the first time. He meets a master. Hey, master, he ate my chicken 10 years ago. I'm going to teach you a skill. They meet again after 2 years. Then he wins over a chicken. That's good. It's scripted. We know. But football should not be scripted. And don't force teams to take drastic actions because you've got poor referees. Poor referees. That man, I don't even know who he is. I don't know where he's from, but I want to tell him, if he ever gets to a point to hear this, you are an embarrassment to the whole footballing fraternity, to all the referees. You're an embarrassment. Grown men like you making silly, it was so obvious. It was so obvious, the decisions. Why, if a team has an issue, look at the UK. If a team scores and the ref says no, and the players argue, then he tells he tells VAR, I need to come and have a look at it because we have a problem here. And they tell him, go and look and make a decision.
But
When he looks at VAR,
Ray,
yeah?
one thing. Instead of us just criticizing him, I think this calls in an issue of what FIFA is proposing to say, just like in cricket, whereby the captain can even request the referee to go to VAR.
Yes.
So instead of us just criticizing him, I think this is a lesson that we can draw lessons from that. Let's captains be authorized to say they can have their 5
You
goals.
have 3 reviews.
Yeah, 3 reviews.
But I
that
thought
they
they
can
were.
solicit.
I thought, okay, like cricket, where
It's
the
not
captain
on-
will request a review
Yeah.
for himself.
Yeah.
I think that's a
Yeah.
good call because you cannot. A captain is allowed to say, look, this is what we feel. You can't brush off a captain. That's responsible because once you brush off the captain, then every other player is coming after you.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you and
Yeah.
guess what? If he had gone to look at VAR on that Senegal goal, even that was scripted, if he had gone to look at VAR and then decide and then tell the boys it's a foul, the tempers were going to go down. Okay. And whatever was going to happen in front, it was not going to be so volatile because he did what they asked him to do. But no, he knew if he was called there, he was going to have to change his decision. 2 guys are pushing each other. All of them are using their hands. The weaker one falls, and then you punish the other one for being stronger. Wait a minute. Why is he being punished for being stronger and fitter than the other? If they're all using their hands, why is he? Okay, say the tables were turned. Was he going to go? I doubt that. I doubt that. So you see, that's Pepe Thiaw. Is that his name? The Senegalese coach, Pepe Thiaw.
Yeah.
Is that his name? Is that his name? Yeah. Listen, brother. Power. Salute you. Power. I'm telling you, power to you, because you need, this thing, like subtle racism and all these sort of things. They come in a subtle way, and the black man is just supposed to say, yes, sir. African just supposed to say, yes, sir. No, you don't have to. If I feel it's wrong, I won't say it's wrong. I'm going to stand on business. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Unless you address me, unless you make me see why you're saying that, I'm never going to agree. Okay? This is how it is. This is who I am. This is how it is. I did give him sag. Zimbabwe girl, I did give him sag. I'm gonna give him sag when you can speak up.
Yeah, thank you. So I think the lesson we can learn from the earlier conversations is, of course, I think Motsepe needs to do better as a Southern African and as a black man. I think he needs to represent us better and make sure CAF doesn't continue to be a slave of the North, but becomes fair for everyone.
And you know the other thing is, sorry, OJ, that before I forget, they talk about no racism in football, making people kneel down and taking the knee and all that. This guy, Lloyd Banks, I think one of you replied to him, Lloyd Banks. That's my boy. Lloyd is my boy. Way back, Lloyd is my boy. Me and Lloyd discuss things, deep. And I said to Lloyd, that taking that knee, it doesn't kill racism. Racism is not taking a knee. You can take a knee, but every day the racists in the football stadiums. I'll tell you one thing: when someone opens a social media account to attack a player, racially abuse a player, you know who it is, because when they set up that account, these people put their details. You know who it is. Don't come and tell us, oh, we're going to look review video. No. You know who it is. Because if someone was to commit murder, that they'll go into social media, they'll use the social media to find you.
Find him.
Exactly. So why can't you do the same when it comes to racism? Nip it in the bud. If it's that deep, if he's a Tottenham Hotspur fan and racially abuses a player, tell Tottenham Hotspur for the next 3 games, the Champions League games, your fans are not allowed in the stadium. You're going to play with that team against fans from that other team. Your fans are not allowed. Send a strong message. That's the only way you can curb this thing. Did you see the Moroccan fans racially mocking, wearing a Senegal jersey, throwing bananas? And then they also threw a banana at the Nigerian goalkeeper, and he took the banana clap dance and he ate it. The same thing they did to Dani Alves. Do you see what they did to Dani Alves? Until Neymar took a banana and ate it. You see, such kind of things must be. I'm telling you, that must be nipped right at the roots. So they also need to punish Morocco for that behavior. They just can't be going after Senegal for walking out of the pitch, and then they want to leave racists jumping up and down the the streets. Why are you turning a blind eye to the racism?
Yeah.
We need.
I also think that the journalists actually fueled it when they actually walked out, especially the Moroccan journalists. That
Exactly.
was uncalled for, especially for people
That's
who
not
want to
professional.
host the World Cup. Host the World Cup. They are supposed to be the epitome of condoning such things, but they walk out of a press conference based on a decision that has been made, just based on a situation in which they have lost. Oh, okay, I might actually understand it. They were angry to say Senegal walked out, so they walked out as well. If they wanted to do that, they were supposed to have come back again. But to walk from a coach about to address in a press conference, let us take it the other way around. If it was the coach who had actually done that,
It would have been fine.
but journalist akagara up, and then the coach then stands up and walk away.
You'll be fine.
Headline ITG, it was going to be
You'll
very
be fine.
different. So
Yeah.
I think and feel that FIFA and at the same time the Moroccan government should also punish those that walked away, and they should not be accredited to the World Cup. Simply because it should send the message. Because when you walked out of a winning coach, simply because you've been beaten by that coach, what do you want to do in soccer if you are failing to be like this? I think all those journalists
And Bono, those journalists are supposed to be neutral. They're supposed to be neutral. They're supposed to be ethical people. And then you call yourself ethical because a winning coach is coming, and then you walk out. Or are you being ethical? Are you showing standards for the journalists? No, you're not. They need to be punished as well. Accreditation needs to be taken away. If they are going to go to the United States to World Cup, the United States government really needs to look into them and say, see, these guys here, they did this. What else are they going to do? That will also bring the game into disrepute. He won. The guy won. Okay, he won. He made the call because he thought it was unfairly treated. He made a call. They played. He won. You need to respect that. He won. He's the champion. You need to talk to him. This is where you ask him, why did you walk out? If he has a journalist to sit there, you let him stay there and say, like, why did you decide to walk out? Get his point of view. And then understand. Then find the question. Not you just walk out like, oh, why did you walk out? You walk out. It's because of how they view the dark-skinned men. It's how they view the melanin strong men, like, well, let's walk out, Hanabasa. If that coach was white, do you think you're going to walk out?
No.
No, they were not. So they also need to be held accountable. Everyone needs to be held accountable in this game.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we'll call upon CAF and FIFA to make sure that if Morocco is ever gonna host the World Cup, they should ensure they address the racism concerns. They address they should address the racism things that they have done. People should be punished before they can host anyone. Before anyone can go to Morocco, they should address racism here.
The thing is,
They
want to concentrate.
Sorry, only like to know one quick one. I love Nezuro. I'm telling you, guys, people need to behave. So I show speed. He meets Magwizi. Then he says,
I'm the president of Zimbabwe.
I'm the president of Zimbabwe. You're what? Because I'm the president of Zimbabwe. Oh, no, you're the president of Zimbabwe. Guys, you know what? Mbana is not stupid. I show speed is not stupid. You see, akangoona vanhu varipo he knew kuti my president afambi. There should be security detail everywhere. Nditi, just tell him I'm the president of Zimbabwe football. Why trying to say I'm the president of Zimbabwe? Did you see that clip?
But I now go edit.
Wagwizi waiting.
He can't just say good president of Zimbabwe. Come on.
I saw that.
But
Anyway. Kids.
Yeah, but you know.
Anyway, coming back to Zim,
the biggest issue.
Bingas has been making moves in the past week. Hard Rock has been buying everything that moves. And Zongo has come back to Zim, to Scotland. Apparently, Wicknell has given some sweeteners too. On that one, I also want to hear your thoughts, guys. Do you think there's a marriage made in heaven, Papa Peter na Norman? Because I know Norman is a headstrong man. He wants his things in a certain way. You think Richawira na Peter? So this afternoon, it's just been announced that Benjani is the new Bosso coach. The Herald has said so. And apparently that a South African guy is going to be paid off. I hope he's going to be paid off if they've done that. So apparently the Bosso hierarchy had to go and weigh apologies to Wicknell. so that they can get sponsorship. So yeah, it's a web of conspiracies and a web of Mabiri Bobby. What's going on? What's your view on
Can I address
these
the
moves, guys?
Peter, the Norman and Peter one, yeah? Because I think sometimes people get confused with these things. There shouldn't be any qualms about his role with Norman.
Okay.
There shouldn't be any qualms with Norman and Peter simply because manager Wogu Zimbabwe is different from a manager, Anon's manager mu Europe. Manager ku Zimbabwe is a welfare manager. He runs everything that has got to do with my players, not on the pitch, but off the pitch. So Peter will be looking at things like, what the player welfare, the injuries, players who are injured, players who are not, the absence, the illness, the traveling party, everything that concerns the football players and football coaches. But he is almost like a conduit between the directors and the coaching department. So I know that people were worried about, what will happen. Peter is not going to have an influence on the football pitch. He's not going to have an influence on what Mapeza does, because that's not his remit. His remit does not include tactics and being on the pitch. If Mapeza decides to get some advice from Peter, he can, obviously, because he's one of our all-time best here. But make no mistake of it, their roles, are clear. Peter cannot interfere with the playing part of it, the playing tactics of it, unless if Scotland ends up being different from what a manager is expected of. You see what I mean? Because they could just decide that he might be the manager, but because it's Peter Ndlovu, he's got to be involved on the actual pitch. But that's not a role for a manager in Zimbabwe. Peter's role is like a welfare manager for the club.
Yeah, and I agree with Kev, because let's not mix the two. Norman is the guy in charge of the team. Peter is running the welfare of the players. So I think that combination works because Peter knows what it takes to keep the players in the right frame of mind. To get the best results, to get the best out of players, and we just wish them the best. And then coming to Hard Rock and Bosso. Let me start with Hard Rock. Look, Chawanda is what do I say? He's ambitious. I like look, the guy built a stadium. Something needed to be done because Midlands is suffering. People in Kwekwe were used to luxury still, and they used to enjoy football. He's brought football, Premier League football to Kwekwe. And kudos to him for that. And in his ambition to do well, I like that, as an ambitious club, you sign players that you think are going to help you. But, and this is a but in capital letters. I think you also need someone. You need someone. You need someone with the finer detail. Someone who sees the finer details in players. You can sign players, because I understand he signed Mare. I don't have a problem. Simba, Masimba cannot. Look at because listen, age does not lie. So in this way, the league way is going to. We don't want a situation where he spends all his monies and then that team gets relegated. Then he loses mojo and Chadi. You know what I mean? We need to keep football alive in Kwekwe. When he's buying these players, he needs people that should be no. Instead of buying this guy, let's get that one, because the whole idea is survival in the Premier League. For this year, they need to survive in the Premier League. You don't win anything, survive, and then the following years, then start aiming for higher things. But if you just be getting players, because you see, position you could have gotten a better player to put there. I'm not going to beat about the bush. I have nothing against Mambara, but you could have gotten a younger player. You understand where I'm coming from? You would have gotten a younger player to put there. Someone can give him more energy when the going gets tough. But then he gets him. And then he got the top goal scorer. Okay, fine. He top goal scorer. He got him. But you see, the ambition is good. I like the drive. I like the ambition. But I have just issues on the kind of player that he's buying. I mean, maybe he just needs to buy players that can actually hold their own against everybody else. And then as for Bosso, Ray,
Highlanders struggled very in all the games that they played against Bigita Minerals. Paina Masimba Mambari, nechimwe chimufesi chakazoenda, I don't know kuti chakazoenda kupi half the season. Angari top goal scorer, angari top goal scorer, angatori contender for top goal scorer akazoenda ku Manica Diamonds.
Katema.
So you find kuti Masimba, of course, he might be old, but you cannot compare Masimba na Benzaka. You see? So when you say Masimba is old, when we have Benza, what are you trying to say?
To talk about hard rock, I talk about the team, to talk about hard rock. IB9 is special. IB9 is special. Anyway, IB9 is special. Now, let me come to Highlanders. Highlanders, you see, Highlanders, hey, Bosso, Mashula Nyama, hey, Chisalanga. You know, it's sad. It's very sad when teams like Highlanders and Dynamos go down to these levels, stoop to such, such embarrassing levels where you change the way you live in your house because one man is dictating the pace of how you are going to survive. And let me be frank.
Not once in us chimbobuda bedroom, nothing dindri.
Let me be frank. Let me be frank on this issue. This Benjani Highlanders relationship is not going to end well. I want you to screenshot this. I want you to save this clip. I'll tell you why. Highlanders fans, Bosso fans are passionate about their team. They love their team. Those guys do not, give us time. They are not that type. They are not that type. Remember when the issues they said we'll stay away from the game, and they did stay away from the field. They did stay away from the stadium. They don't play. This guy, announced Benjani, this is a call to all former legends, players, whoever they want to call themselves. If you decide to go into coaching, do so on merit. Do not use people to fight your battles to get you jobs. Show Kuti you are good. Prove your mettle. Start down, climb up. Let people know you. See you coming up. And then they give you a job based on your abilities. Okay? Pizzo
But I
Masimane.
graduated and high school, Baba. I graduated and high school Leeds. I graduated and high school Leeds.
Hey, Wangu. You can graduate.
But
Answer the question.
But I got coach Platinum. Akatamba, akakocha Platinum, akatamba bora. I qualified.
Mira. Stop,
Aiwa. But in Zware, we cannot.
Every coach starts somewhere.
Probably the challenge that you can actually bring to him.
Remember, this guy was in Gezi Platinum. Hey, what happened in Gezi Platinum? What happened? No, I want you to tell me what happened. For what?
Besides my results, Marinica chete ndiye anongogara.
We're not talking about Marinica Panapa. Let me tell you, we're not talking about he was engaged the platinum and then he got fired for poor results. Where else did he coach all that time until today? Where else did he coach until today?
My juniors kunana play mouth.
Aha. Listen, gentlemen, listen. Bora rinyepi. You could have played Seka. It doesn't automatically turn you into a good coach. Arsene, we don't even know Arsene Wenger as a footballer. We know he played, but we didn't even know Adam Botamba. But look at him. Look at Jose Mourinho. We don't even know him with football exploits. We don't know his football exploits, but we know his plays as a coach. It doesn't necessarily mean because he played.
Look at Carrick.
Look at Zidane.
But to be fair though, look at
Joe Mugabe.
If we're being fair, he was a player assistant coach. Yeah.
It's not casting.
No. What I wanted to say in there would we've got to admit though, just because you've played doesn't mean you necessarily become a good coach, because players like Atambwa not dondos when it comes to coaching. Yeah.
Don't start.
But playing does help. It does help because the intricacies of what a player does on the pitch. Because you then see Patinoto enough Venga Nana Morino, they're in the very minority. Yeah. In the very minority. Normally for you to be able to coach at a high level, you normally would have had that experience in that dressing room, about being a player, being actually on the pitch and all. But I would say, I'm not going to say I'm disappointed, because it's not disappointing. It's a fact of life that's been there for a long time. There's far too many people who played football, and probably the only thing that they understand is their role that they were playing. But to actually be able to know, to understand, the whole concept of
and to communicate it.
11, the communication and all that, a lot of them are very, very poor. It's damning, because we always talk about Zimbabwe. Anyway, there's people who played in Zimbabwe alone, and they will tell you all the football, that's, they believe, what they understand. But it's up until, like we've said, that they come into Europe, into America, Asia, where there's proper training facilities and equipment and resources, yeah. They then realize that they don't really understand much. And that's the reason why I always say, I asked someone a question. Actually, I can't remember who it was who asked me about coaches, local coaches. And I put out sort of the things that you need to be a national team coach, a proper national team coach. Yeah. And when I put that list and I said, can you name me one coach in Zimbabwe who can meet this criteria? And without even going, in 2 seconds, they'd answered me already and said 0. Because just playing doesn't mean anything if you then don't have the brain, but to actually, be able to take a lot of information. And also coaching, you learn just like you learn as a footballer. So you almost like have grassroots as well in coaching. And this is probably like where Ray was mentioning about Benji as well, that it's important that you learn, because if you start from the top, you have to be lucky that you do well and you stay there. Because if you start at the top and you fail, when you go down, the chances of coming back up again are going to be very slim. And so, yeah, I think with the Benji situation, it's a bit right. We've got to admit, in an ideal world, things which are happening won't happen, but they're happening because Zimbabwe, this is the normal Zimbabwe. You've got to accept that. That's what it is. Because I look at even Peter, I don't know, I was off. I don't know if you spoke about Peter, but on one hand, you're thinking, you leave South Africa, but where you've been very consistent and, they do things properly and professionally and all that, to go to Zimbabwe. But then if you want to look on the side, on the selfish part of it, if he's getting what he was, he's getting what we had, that is getting like the 250 or 300,000 stands and whatever, and you think it's got to be selfish. It's got to be selfish, because he's old now, but he's in that age where he's looking for his pension. So why shouldn't he?
Yeah.
He's got to do it. But from a moral point of view or football point of view, you can't tell me that that's a step forward. That's a step back. But so how many times do we have players who are playing in the Premier League and they've got a contract, but they are picked up by a championship team who's going to pay them more than what they're getting paid there, because they're going to be the big star in that team. And they're telling you it's all about the money. It's the same as players going to Saudi Arabia. You can question all you want, but at the end of the day, people are being selfish. They're looking after number one, and Peter is looking after number one. I think for all that Peter has done in our game, morality and whatever, it should go out of the window. I think he deserves to get anything that he gets.
Yeah. For the first time, Kev, I agree with you. Guys. For the first time today, I agree with you. Simply because I want to. I'll give you the chance. And then I was going to be saying, Guti, you know what? Benji, if you look at Benji played the game. Benji has seen it at different levels. Then Leon, and other things. Then EPL. So you find, Guti, this guy has played in different leagues, which is number one. And there is nothing that stops him from coaching that. We have a big boy Mawiwu who coached Dynamos. He played Cycle Cement. And Vayan coach. Asina boenda ku Europe, but still akaita zvakanaka. We have also anonzi Arkutel one who's been Kutimbari. He played very well. Maroa. I don't know his name, but I know the late brother, W. Maroa. He was also a player with Rhinos, Tamba Bora. So I think there is Panekameka difference. But now this is because it's Benji. Why do we question? Because all these other coaches, even down, people are not even asking questions. But now because it's Benji, probably the way we are now. Let the way how we are
Oliver. No. Let's tell him we take it away. We person because we don't know him. We don't know him.
But Ray, do you want to disqualify someone because you know
Oliver, don't do that. Oliver, I think. Let me say now. Vakati give the why how come black coaches are not given a chance? Because it's not given a chance. My teams, they are results or teams want results. Then and I say to him, some of coaches have come and Chris Otton they've been given and I won that guy won, I don't know there's one of one, I don't know. I can't coach them EPO or something. They come, they give it just they go. And then you want to talk about Kutanzi Tamba. One of my all-time favorites, here's the coaching way where we cannot consider going to this one and more count on a quit. I don't know, I can't even explain.
Ray, ayo about Ray.
You can't say
Utora Kevera because
who's that?
Kevera about.
You're missing my point. I'm not saying Mutamba is a poor coach. It doesn't mean what I'm saying is it doesn't mean Kutokam Mutamba is going to make you a good coach. That's what I'm trying to say. There are guys who can do it. There are guys who have done it.
Ray, where you are
let's go into sort of statistics as well. Yeah. More than 90% of people of coaches, yeah, they've played football. Yeah, more than 90, they've played football. But there's a catch to that as well. The majority of players who have played football do not coach. Yeah, so it touches both points that you're talking about, as in with you saying that if you've played and you probably have a chance or an idea, but to actually coach because 90% plus coach. But the problem is that let's just say out of a squad of 25, you're only going to get maybe 4 or 5 coaches from that. The rest are not going to be coaching. Yeah. So it supports both your point. The problem with Benji's issue, though, from how I look at it, probably Benji, he might end up doing well at Highlanders. You never know. I always say give someone, if he's going to go in there, you give him a chance. The problem is how he would have gone into the job because it's imposed. That's where the problem, people have a problem with. When you're imposed, on that, you're being imposed and it's almost like they're being told, if you want money, you're going to have this coach. Yeah. And that creates a problem even for someone like Benji.
The conditionality, I agree with you. The conditionality that is goes out.
Oliver Mbomira, now I've been quiet for too long. You see, a fish rots from the head. A president. Now it has come down to football clubs, teams that are in the league, starting with Benji. Mukasa appointa Benji, muka appointa anyone else, then and support Marambo. They went and asked for support. Kuti vaise coach wavanga vachida iwo akaramba, and now he's coming back and giving them because vazobvuma, they succumbed to the pressure and then they accepted kuti alright takutora Benji wachona wamuri kuda so that we can get the money. You see,
but there should be rules.
There should be rules against it. It's not bhanisa neFIFA.
There should be rules.
Zifa president ozotanga ku-influence more than 3 teams in the same league.
Yeah.
Izvozvo should never be. I don't think kuti kana FIFA yakatarisa izvozvo they will ever accept it. What do you OJ?
ona nchiti ndo anonzi ma-related parties. Sorry, just answering kuti ndo anonzi ma-related parties yekuti this person has got an influence in, let's say, in the situation near EPL. You would say one person is sponsoring Manchester United. That same person goes and sponsors Man City. That same person goes and sponsors Liverpool. And that
Ingoti
same
Emirates.
person is
Ingoti
going to...
Emirates iri kuArsenal, Emirates
Exactly.
iri kuReal Madrid.
It will be a company.
No, but in this case manje, Oliver, uyu munhu ari kutoya achitoti appoint
isai coach akuna Emirates painouya ichikuudzai kuti
guys iyoyo ndikuda kuti ndozoya kwayo in a different way. There's nothing about Benji taking over, but the process yauya nayo says something else. Benji is qualified. He has got UEFA A. Anangana problem. Recently, he played soccer, so there's nothing that stops him. And he's actually among the pool of people who can actually be pulled as a coach with Highlanders. So to say could qualify, that's not true. Probably what you might question is the way we are now. But if you look at Highlanders, Dynamos, they don't have sponsors at the moment. So when sponsors come in, even Sakunda Sakunda Pambera, and it's a condition that is actually at one time. I remember Bank ABC yakatoya conditions during the time here each sponsor Dynamos the Highlanders. The conditions that they had. It's very unfortunate that this guy who's sponsoring has come up with a condition which in some cases we are not agreeing to it. But because yangoya achiti bvisai coach anga aripo ndoda kuti muise Benji, haana kuda kuti nyorwa zita rake apo kuti nyorai kuti nini. That's why you are even saying good influencer. But this haana kuuya nemari kuti ndiri kupai mari chiisai Benji.
But Oliver, Oliver, we cannot accept munhu interfere in football matters.
Executive went
no,
to
Oliver.
You cannot separate me and your dad, because ndazongotuma vanhu chete kuti do the job because I'm that big, but you know everyone ari kuziva kuti izvo madrugs awafira ndeangu, but inini pamwe that's the problem.
But
because
anyway,
exactly.
Yeah. Because the problem mberipo kunyika kwedu ndepekuti taura tese tinowirirana chinohwane, but there's an unfortunate thing. Ma-ethics nema-morals atinoda kuyusa haapply kuZimbabwe nenyaya mari, nenyaya yekuti hakuna mari. Saka no matter what we say, at the end of the day, everything is going to be governed by the fact yekuti aisa mari apa arikuita chakati ndiani. Because under any normal circumstances, we were talking about EPL and all that, there is no one, you never get a situation, no matter even kana uri nyangwe Elon Musk chai, the richest man in the world, akauya akatenga team premiership, he would never be allowed to make it to kuita influence more different teams in the Premier League. But team yake anogona kuti ndakutenga kuti manager we guy, but we are saying, but kuona na chinoitika, any organization in resources in mari, they tend to use morals more than kungo accept nonsense because mune mari. Unfortunately with Zimbabwe, we have to accept that nonsense because vanhu Highlanders vachionaka tikasaisa Benji vachionaka hatina mari yekudana club zvatinoda kuita.
True. Beggars cannot be choosers. Anyway, let me go on to the so if you
all right, go ahead.
Scotland, Scotland. I think Scotland is going to replace Dimbare very soon. Of course, it might be controversial because I think Mdarawedu aka miss at the point. Akaramba that because he doesn't have the money. He doesn't have the money to run that club. Even akawana mari from other people, they want to wrestle that team from him. So looking at it now, Scotland now will have more supporters from Dimbari going to Scotland. They will love to hate Scotland, but they'll go to pay to watch Scotland play. As it is right now, I think the challenge that we are facing is with the old teams. The only team that I foresee survivor yanga ine potential of surviving was Highlanders before this debacle that has actually happened. And I feel kuti the big teams, they are actually going down because of Anamaria.
Yeah.
That's my how you can come
Right.
back again.
All right. I get you. Dynamos. And it Dynamos urumbona ere ma heavyweights ari kuuya kuDynamos ukuku. Aruda kureplace anonzi ni Marriott. And it haana kutengerwa motikari panapa akapiwa motikari manje.
Yeah.
He's
Hata
slowly
tutorwa
being
team.
sidelined. That is yet to be decided. But in my point was na Benjani. And as a coach, and then I am not against him coaching any team, being appointed to Bosso or what. But mawiro akaita, mawira arikuita under those circumstances. Aisafanira kumbobvuma kuuya under those conditions dzekuti ndinoimposwa ndichienda apa. I would expect better from him kwaari iye as a coach. But anyway, those same thing chatiri kuona kuna Peter zvanga zvichitaurwa kunzadza hatizive kuti Peter akabvuma sei.
This is about the stomach. Ndezvedumbu izvi shamari. Munhu arikugadzirisa life yake.
Yeah, it's about money. You have
It's about
to
life.
feed the family first.
If it was you who has actually been appointed, knowing very well that you qualify for that position, go to that. I'm going to give the money, but you are going to be the coach. Would you refuse?
All right, munhu iyeye achadzingika here akatanga kuita poor results.
Anodzingika, results anodzingika, but at the moment, the process.
You have to go back to Wicknell. You have to go back to Wicknell.
Munotanga kunokumbira uti tiri kunyura. Handiriona. Saka uya akadecide kuti musiye ari.
Plus, I'm saying I
understand that point. I understand that point. Fair enough. My principles and kutaura kuti pari kurasikira zvinhu zvese ndepekuti uyu akatanga kufela as a coach. Munotanga kuenda unokumbira uyo muchinda uyo kuti tomudzinga here. But muchinda uyo akataura kuti aripo. Inonyura, inorelegate ngirikiri Highlanders here. Just because the foundations of it are rotten. Gone. But
we are getting an assumption which is not correct.
What guarantee do you have that Chivayo azotaura pamberi about leave that coach there even my results are still good? Can you stand there and say and tell us
only said okay, Chivayo only said, I'm not going to be an advocate of Chivayo, but we are assuming that Benji has fired because of Chivayo. We are going to I'm going to interfere with soccer. The executive is the one that is running soccer. That's the reason why you find the executive when
is interfering.
You're underestimating. You're underestimating Chivayo. Actually appointed the FIFA president. He appointed the FIFA president. Also, that's
a club.
You are getting it all wrong. Chivayo akaisa FIFA president, but I select my players again on Tampa border. I select a coach.
How do we know? How do we know?
So I think, no. It's
how do we know?
Let us not assume kuti Chivayo because at is Benji. Achamuti Jagari the way. No. I don't think he's that unprofessional to the extent of going that far.
He is. Okay.
Yeah, he's
professional.
If
someone who
looks
who
like
says,
a baboon and it has hairs like a baboon, it is a baboon.
Baba, do you know what?
There's no two ways about it. You see, take things at face value.
If you are saying it that way, Chivayo assisted Highlanders. This is not the first time when they went to FIFA and Chivayo paid money for Highlanders.
He's rewarding unprofessionalism.
No. Chivayo paid and never asked for a single cent. And now they've come
he
back
was
to
rewarding
him
He's asking now.
Whatever you want to call it.
He
but
is asking now.
He has come back and like, no, executive ndoya uya kuzo approach.
That's not how it started. No. That's not how it started. It started by him telling them, appoint. Pedza coaching qualification yake. Appoint him as a coach. And it no thank you.
You are getting wrong.
That's what he said.
Hold your horses. I've given you enough time to speak.
Go on.
You see, Vati Ngirikiri, I got appoint Benji as a coach. And it you what no, but thank you. We are already in the process of appointing Coach Weduteg. And it's and I said, can you support us again? I told you the conditions that you are going to get this money. And if you don't meet those conditions, you are not getting the money. And they had to succumb to that. Hakuna zvokushaya work permit. We all know what happened. What are the requirements? But we know what happened.
Unfortunately, I don't.
On. You were
But
sidelined.
Al,
This is just an excuse.
that let's work with facts.
This is factual.
Is Benjani qualified? Wait, Al. Is Benjani qualified to coach any team in the Premier League?
He is.
Yes, Benjani is qualified to coach any team. But Tataura
was he coaching it?
That's not what we are up against.
I'm not disagreeing you with the way. I'm even also against the issue. The appointment did not come from the executive because the deal between Benjani and Highlanders started well before they even went to source out the coach from South Africa. But Benjani akazorasiswa coach from South Africa, and that's when this whole debacle started. Later on, when Highlanders executive realized that they didn't have the money to support their decision, what did they do? They went to their sponsor, and the sponsor highlighted conditions, conditionalities for aid. One, Zoserai Benji, and I'll pay him. Just like the way
Sponsor
Africa
must
looks
not
for
come
aid
with such
elsewhere.
conditions.
Benji was never there. Unodzosera chinhu changa chiripo before.
But you know problem now in Etika ne scenario ya Benji ndeyekuti as a coach kana uchipinda team uchitanga kujoin a team, you want to learn a lot of things about that team, and you also want the full backing Yema fans as well. I don't know what his situation is going to be, but knowing my Highlanders fans, I think he's going to have a divided situation where they're going to be fully in support of him because of it's Benji and where he's coming from, and also, obviously, issue Guti, I know Kulumo as well from that end as well, that can help him as well. But Kunewamwe as well, maybe who will be anti Chivayo or people who are anti sort of a situation Guti a coach is imposed on them based on the fact that Guti Monarkunza Chimari. So now when he's going into that sort of divided camp, the problem is you always be under pressure to do right. And sometimes time yachona unogona kusanyatsopiwa nemafans. Yeah, you might be given time nemuridzi wemari because muridzi wemari akati hausi but a relationship nemafans is very important, because no matter how much money Benji gets, if he don't have the backing Emma fan, even he purchase like he will feel good. But you feel good environment Yawuri is not conducive. And that's the thing Chano gonna suffer nacho simply because if the fans don't go on his side on the basis the way you are aware now you're not happy with it, then you have a problem. Every game it becomes too much. Scrutiny yanga chaitwa dayanga we are through the proper channels is different from scrutiny awunzwanichi nemuridzi wemari. And like I said as well, if uyu akauya Chivayo akati munhu akati coach uyu nyangwe zvikaita sei Benji is the pillar of Zimbabwean football zvichaita when the team is not doing well. Highlanders inogona kurelegatwa and you can't do anything about it because the money man is saying stay there, stay put, no matter what. So these are the dangers nebora, especially with teams which are owned by individuals, because individual gorongomeka mamwe decisions yekuti haana munhu anomuchallenge as such kuti usaite chakati, the owners or the buck stops with him. So it's really a tricky one. I can understand Highlanders executive. I can understand where they're coming from because awumana munhu anongoya achingokupeka na million or 1.5 or whatever. That's a lot of money. Do you know? I even talk about the morality at Notora on things. I know, good. I'm not stupid. tinotaura about this because we are in the positions ekuti we are able to talk about it. Guy AKV asiri mu-UK, things are not going well and ari kuZimbabwe, whatever. Maitoona ndiritori chairman footballers for ET 2030. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ndiri muposition yekuti I can look at that and say, what's going on? You see, that's the tricky thing about life. That's why sometimes criticism why those people where they're coming from as well. You see, that's the same thing. Nana Marinica. When you hear me talking about these things, it's not good. I agree with him because I don't agree with what he was doing in terms of my European players and all that. I don't. But but not say as well. You know what? If you give him a chance right now, and imagine kuti Marinica Vans the next game over team Aswanise Pan. I'll be in the front queue yekutaura kuti get away and you go because now wakuziva vanhu, and bear in mind he corrected his mistake. Pakuti akamutambisa paSouth Africa. What is these scientific things zvaangataura it was before. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say without going back on Marinica ndeyekuti sometimes decisions zinoitwa nevanhu, as much as we want to use morality into it, sometimes financial situation or resources decisions. I don't think there's any Highlanders official who would ever want to go to Harare and beg a businessman to pay them. They wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, boss, of all the teams.
They wouldn't want that because they were self-sufficient and very independent and very happy with their club. But the economy yachona yakuita kuti vabvume kuiswa into that position. And me and you, we can argue all we want about why it's wrong, and we know it's wrong, but it's right to them because that's the only way that they have so far.
Yeah.
And if
that's the only way they can survive as a club.
akatanga kuwina baba? My fans, they can change if a team starts
I
winning.
hope he succeeds.
Yeah.
I hope he does
we
well.
made a very bold decision because, like what Keve said, put yourself in the shoes of the executive. Amari, they don't have the money. They've actually, the coach hasina mari yekuti sustain. And what do they have to do? They have to go and look for money. The only way kwanza kuwana mari iri quick and to cover that is way to go and ask. Yes, Bosso fans can actually fundraise, unlike Dimbari fans. Bosso fans can stand with their team and say, $10, $10. But Dimbari, but unlike Highlanders, I tell you,
but Mario needs to go.
But the boys that
Mario needs to go.
As bad as it sounds, like I said, and I'm actually laughing on my own. It's crazy, but that's reality.
I know kuti vanhu vachinje pfungwa vachinje maitiro vachinje zvakawanda
like Man City sold it so.
Muimbi akamboimba akati anzi mazuva ano ane mari ndiye mukuru.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ane mari ndiye mukuru zvekuti
yeah. Amen.
hanzi mari inoita sei nebhaibheri.
It answers all things.
Yeah, but anyway, I announce it, the money is the root of all evil.
The love.
Because
the love
that
of
we are
money.
facing.
Not money.
And money makes the world go around.
Hey, money is problem.
Money is needed.
But you know what?
Money is not the problem. Tell me. All right,
go on down. Go on.
All right. Kana uchiti hanzi the love of money is the root of all evil. And it doesn't exonerate the money itself. The money is causing the love. And you cannot separate one thing from the other.
zvebhaibheri ndakubaprofita chamai aiwa bhaibheri chienda kumaprofita
ipapo ndopanotangira war.
But can you say mari ndio yakashata?
Ndopanotangira war.
Scotland ina prophet. Scotland ina prophet. Unaona here episode ya prophet in Scotland. They actually go to prophet angel Scotland. Yeah, they've got a prophet.
Oh.
naProfit Magaya.
Yeah, of
Prophet
course,
Magaya
through
vakazobuda mujeri.
association. Yeah, he's out now. He's out on bail. This is Bora, it's Yada.
Yada ka-FC, right.
I know, it's a no-brainer.
Aiwa,
It's a no-brainer.
ureza ma-footballers
anga achatozozviita just like that.
Yeah.
Because that baba
perhaps
urikuona ari
we
kuita
Yeah, no.
need
64,000 per month runs. Are you telling me kuti Peter anga achaiwana mari iyoyo? Because it didn't start now. Peter akapuwa BMW naChivayo achiri kuSouth Africa achishandira Mamelodi Sundowns. Azouya kuno kobva apuwa 300,000. Let me just put 300,000 tonoti imari kumaranzi yaapuwa iyoyo. 300,000 into rands 736 according to today's rate.
That's two houses in the low density areas of South Africa.
Of South Africa.
houses
So
straight.
Peter angopuwa
Maria
Zimbabwe
yakaspa
low
patable,
density.
yeah.
Ndobva apo saka ochizoti plus 10,000 per month. Kana iwewe ukaipuwa mari iyayi. South Africa, Peter was not even earning 4 million in a year, but aipuwa a sign-on fee.
Yeah, it was a no-brainer.
So
It's
to
a
me,
no-brainer.
to me, even you actually go for.
Kaadye mari dzemarema.
Haasi kumbodaro.
Yeah.
Aiwa.
That's the root. You know, that's the beginning of all problems. Mukatanga kuda.
Yeah.
By the time I made,
Let me tell you.
Benji angasata qualify.
Aiwa, let me tell you this. Benji qualified 3 years ago to become a coach. Saka this thing you cannot tell me kuti zvakaitwa 3 years 4 years ago.
Coach A.
Benji anogara kubulawa. Benji akakurira atori neimba kubulawa. Which is another fact for the Highlanders, right? Games the Highlanders anoenda all the time. So if Ngodzo is now coaching,
he was in the juniors.
Success. Ndo ma qualities are
success no. Success is nobody knows at the moment.
We know
he's but I'm just telling you.
Kana
Ngodzo wakatamba naye kumajunior.
Atina way muchirundinzwa ere.
But the process.
I can hear you.
But you on the process. But don't argue on the qualifications of Benji because he qualifies.
All right.
No, I think he's arguing more on Kuti. Wicknell and it. Wicknell is a sponsor and it. Wicknell haana chebhora chaanoziva. He's a sponsor. So Wicknell as a sponsor, what you should do is to say 300,000 E. Highlanders, you know the style of football that you want to play. Highlanders, you know the players that you have at your disposal. You know the coach who's going to fit with these players that you have at your disposal. Look for a coach. Wicknell is not a football person who come and say, this coach is going to be the good coach for Highlanders because he doesn't know anything about football. He's not a football person.
OJ, you use examples. I'll use the example that you quoted me one day. You buy a company. Yanga in distress. And you have a condition, okay, good 300,000 good because I'm investing marimo and the program okay. Is that bad? The media. And this years the media
that's different.
But I know someone who's qualified. I know someone who's qualified who can actually help you.
The danger now, Oliver, let's say if we go into the IT field, in some very specialized fields, they are software developers. We are saying software developers, but pane mumwe munhu anoziva machine learning, pane mumwe munhu anoziva mainly zvimwewo maybe cyber security and it. So inini ndisina knowledge ye IT. If I go in and say appoint this guy. How do I know that this guy is fitter in cybersecurity, or maybe he's a machine learning guy? So in what I should do is to appoint munhu anogona this field IT ndiani.
Ndikubate ipapo. Yeah.
Yeah,
Banditi.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
not saying kuti zvinoita Wicknell is sensible. So like the way andinotaura ndichidefend one, not defending, but ndichitry kuda kuti muone from his own point of view.
yeah.
One of the biggest stars dzemuZimbabwe kuti aite coach wavo. On
Yeah.
top of that, they don't have to pay for it. I pay for it. These people, they don't appreciate. That's his way of thinking. Because they
Yeah.
don't. I'm doing this for the development of football in Zimbabwe. Because anyone adult that development yebhora muZimbabwe anoita zvegrassroots and angopampa mari kuone team anoita anotrya kuzvispreada
Novaka mastadium.
widely kune the whole sort of football, sort of football environment yemuZimbabwe. Saka,
Yeah.
these are specific. I don't know whether it's egotistical things or cannot. I don't go feel out. I want to do A, B. So now,
Yeah.
kwatiri isusu toti it's not sensible. Kwaari ari kutofunga kuti we are not
I've
grateful.
solved a problem. I've solved a
I've solved a
problem.
problem. Yeah, you're
Yes.
not grateful. You're not grateful for what I'm doing. Diana anongopa a team like Highlanders. Like, yeah, ungrateful. That's his mentality. But Isusu here, notice that the greater good of the game, we don't see it that way.
True. In
Yeah,
my
it's
own
a
language
tricky
might be
one.
different.
I think we can go on.
Yeah. But I think people should not hate the person who has actually come in to help. Because once you become a beggar, you lose a certain degree of autonomy. You see, if you receive money from someone, Babaga, you lose a certain degree of autonomy. Saka, like what Kevin has actually highlighted.
Yeah.
But problem is, last time let's say coach. This time I told him South Africa, I'm fine, just share
Yeah.
This time Torai Benji when you Aripo is Highlanders fan, he's a captain Angarimuno. When I told Peter Njov, Tamisa Scotland, Tatora Nomin Mapeza have Scotland. We wanted to take over Timbaris, but now
Yeah.
Highlanders, you've got the same problem. Why can't we just take Chi? Benji, who's your son, who played for the Highlanders, my juniors, who knows there, who's got houses there and business there. I mean, I don't have a problem with paying Benji. So now the challenge is, why are you saying good Benji's appointment is now something else? It's not saying good that one, that son that you have. I'm to coach and I probably we see it from different angles. But
I think
anyway.
that thing I think it will only work if it works. If it doesn't work, then
it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But if he wins, supporters will come to his side. Because I don't want to
But
sacrifice.
sometimes you know that
bans.
you can win whilst doing wrong things, and then you set a
That's very
precedence
true.
for wrong things.
A win is a win, Baba. Mourinho, I pack a badge. Otora cup. Finish.
This sets us on a path ekubanwa.
Yeah, it's very dangerous. Because Oliver,
but
you know the other danger, Oliver, is Highlanders and Scotland is sponsoring Wicknell is sponsoring Scotland. It is rumored that he's also got his hand in Dimbari. He's also got his hand through association with Anasimba Bora and the like. So Scotland is going to need 3 points from Highlanders. Very crucial. And they need to win the league. You can tell me anything, but there's no way that you don't tell me one team who have to subjugate itself and allow another team to win just because of that undue influence. That's when the things will go very murky.
Ayo, Baba.
Let me give you an example. One example. Simba Bora last season, they were running away with the league. And then Simba Bora happened to run into financial difficulties during their African Champions League campaign. Fortunately or unfortunately, they were then helped by Wicknell and Scott. From the time that Simba Bora got that sponsorship, they started losing games. They completely lost form until the end of the season. And somehow that benefited Scotland. I'm not saying that anything happened, but to the people, something happened there. Someone influenced someone to start losing games. So that's the picture that is painted.
OJ, our challenge as Africans is that whenever something happens and then bad omen lingers around, we start attributing it to something that we have received or something that we have happened. You listened to Mauchi, Mfana Isha achitaura nyaya yake. Achiti, we went to Swaziland, we wanted to win, but they lost. I don't think there is any team in this world that gets into a game wanting to lose. He even attributed to say, but penalty. When we came back, we thought the momentum and everything, and all this was just like they were tired. And tell me, Al, any team that has actually participated in the African games that comes back and win the league. Give me in Zimbabwe. The following year, because of the intensity and the pressure that comes with that thing.
Marinica win 4 consecutive Champions League. Yeah, they went. Yeah, of course.
Dimbo will pay something. Dimbo will tell you something. And I won't mention team. Yeah, but this is an experience I had. And I'm not saying it could I go create a story and I swear on my kid's life that I had people coming to my house about this. Yeah. I was playing for a team. Like I said, I won't mention the teams. And I was a massive figurehead in that team, you know, and very influential in that team. We were playing against a team of people who I knew, but they were trying to get promotion. They came to my house and asked me specifically, basically, they were asking me, they wanted me to underperform when we were playing against them.
Yeah.
Because
Really?
they had to win. Because they had to win. They had to win this game. Because I knew them. Because I knew
Wow.
them. Yeah. They felt that they could ask me a question of that nature. Yeah.
Wow.
So basically, what I'm telling you is even they say Ramonon's Gagunzi, bribe, whatnot is here. Those things happen in football. Because I'm not talking about something that I had, something that
Happened to you.
happened. I'm talking of football official of a club that I knew and said that, you know what, our gaming, we can't afford it. It's not going to win by fair, but we can't afford taking chances there because we have to get these points because we have to be promoted.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true. It
Yeah.
happens.
So when you hear about these things, sometimes I've seen it with Etika, but as Rambir with Fututi, because you've got to understand now what is I could depend on the moon what Wagamira say. Because imagine how we are dealing in dire poverty. Yeah.
Like good Pacific Highlanders.
Wobavanditi Sira Mario Guti life changing man. Do you think Guti you're not even going to know about this because I'm not even going to tell you?
Yeah, you're not
Because
gonna tell us.
and
Yeah.
it's one game already, which is not going to make any difference because we not lose it. We're not getting promoted, we're not getting relegated. And let's just say with it now, no, and that cannot in 15,000. They just don't want me to be influential like I am with that team going forward, like I do.
Yeah.
Just like my chances are Ndamuka, Ndikaba.
All right. Thank you all for being with us today, and thanks to Al, Kelvin, Oliver, and please do share, like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. And if you have anything that you want us to talk about, we're always ready to talk about. We are usually uncensored, so we're a platform that speaks raw and unfiltered analysis of Zimbabwean football and African football. So thank you for being with us and for joining us. And thank you to my co-hosts for your views as always. And aluta continua. Bye.
Muito prazer.
Thank you. Yes.